The first 2 weeks after David left with the children were the hardest Chidima had ever known. The house felt too quiet, too empty. Their toys were still in the corners. The little clothes still hung on the lines. Every room echoed with the absence of her children. She tried to distract herself. She rearranged the furniture, swept twice a day, and played gospel music just to fill the void. David had promised to return in 2 weeks to take her along once her visa cleared. But soon, the calls began to dwindle. The first missed call didn't worry her. He had always been busy. But then 2 days passed. No messages, no updates, no photos of the kids. She dialed him. It rang and rang. Then, voicemail. She tried again. Nothing. On the third day, he picked up. "David, finally," she said, her voice trembling with excitement and relief. "How are the kids? Did they eat well? Has Amanda's cough gone down?" There was a pause. Then his voice, distant and oddly cold. "They're fine. Busy here. Can't talk long." "Oh, okay," she said, caught off guard. "Can you put Amanda on the phone? Just for a moment, please." "She's asleep," he replied flatly. "At 3 p.m.? I said she's asleep." He hung up before she could say more. She stood there, staring at the phone. The sharp beep of disconnection echoed louder than it should have. Her heart thudded. The next day, she called again. No answer. Then the day after. Still nothing. By the fourth day, panic had set in. She sent a dozen messages. "Please, just let me hear their voices. Are you okay? I'm worried, David." But all remained unread. She confided in her neighbor, Mama Titi. "Something is wrong," Chidima whispered, her fingers trembling around her tea mug. "He was never like this. He always picked my calls, even when he traveled for business." Mama Titi frowned. "Are you sure nothing happened between you two before he left?" Chidima shook her head. "Nothing. We kissed goodbye. He even told me he would surprise me with a new phone when he returns." The woman sighed. "Sometimes men change when they touch foreign land. Just keep praying." Chidima forced a smile, but inside her stomach was in knots. She didn't want to believe anything was wrong. David was her husband. He was the father of her children. They had shared 8 years together. He couldn't just disappear. A week later, he called. But it wasn't the David she remembered. "Chidima, don't keep calling like that," he said, his tone sharp. "It's distracting you," she asked, shocked. "I'm your wife. I carried our children. I bathed your mother when she was sick. I cleaned that house from roof to floor. What's happening?" "I'm just busy, that's all." "Then tell Amanda I miss her. Let me talk to Chidi. Please, just let me hear them." "They're at school," he said quickly. "In the evening? In Canada?" she asked, her voice rising. "I said they're busy. Stop pushing." And again, the line went dead. That night, she lay on the couch in the children's room, hugging Amanda's favorite doll. Her chest ached as much as her head. She scrolled through old photos on her phone. Birthdays, bedtime selfies, the night David danced with Amanda in the living room while she clapped along. What changed? She stopped eating. Her skin began to dull. She started to talk to herself. "I'm overthinking," she whispered one day, pacing the corridor. "He's just overwhelmed. New country, new school. It's hard. He'll come around." But deep in her gut, a truth was beginning to bloom. Cold, slow, and unwelcome. Something was terribly wrong. She began calling the airline. She tried to track the flight he took, asked how long visa processing typically took. Everything seemed normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Then, on a Tuesday morning, she received a text message from David. It said only 3 words. "We need to talk." Her hands trembled. The mug she was holding slipped and shattered on the floor. Her baby bump, now growing into its 8th month, tightened as she gasped. She stared at the message for what felt like an hour. The silence was no longer empty. It was loaded with something dark. 3 days had passed since David's cryptic message, "We need to talk." Chidima hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy from crying. Every knock at the gate startled her. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. But David didn't follow up, not with a call, not with another text. She couldn't eat. Her stomach was in knots, and the baby kicked restlessly, as if sensing her unease. Then, on the third evening, just as the sun dipped below the rooftops and bathed the living room in orange light, her phone rang. David. She stared at the screen for a full 5 seconds, hands trembling. Then she answered. "Hello?" she said, voice barely above a whisper. There was silence. Then a click. Another person joined the call. "David?" she asked again, panic rising. "What's going on?" A second voice came on the line. A woman. "I told you not to involve me in this nonsense, David," the woman said sharply. Her accent was foreign, but her tone was cold. Chidima froze. David cleared his throat. "Chidima, listen to me carefully," he began, voice measured and emotionless. "I'm not going to waste time going in circles. You deserve to know the truth." "The truth?" she whispered, gripping the edge of the couch. "What truth?" "You and I were never married." Silence. Chidima blinked. "What? What are you talking about? We had a ceremony. Your uncle—" "It wasn't legal," he interrupted. "The documents were fake. It was all arranged. There was never a marriage certificate filed anywhere." She gasped. "That's not true. Don't lie to me." "I'm not lying," he said, still calm. "The truth is, I'm already married. Legally, in Canada. Her name is Marissa." Chidima's whole world tilted. "What?" she breathed. "Married?" "Yes," the woman on the line snapped. "And I've been married to him for 5 years. I couldn't have children, so your relationship was just well, let's call it what it is, a transaction." Tears spilled freely from Chidima's eyes. "What are you saying?" David's voice came again, low and direct. "I married Marissa long before I ever met you. She couldn't conceive. We tried for years. We did IVF, we spent thousands of dollars. Nothing worked. Then I came home to Nigeria, and I met you." "You told me you were single," Chidima cried. "You told me your mother wanted you to marry a kind Nigerian girl." "She did," he said. "And you were perfect. Quiet, obedient, God-fearing. You ticked every box. And I needed children." Chidima stood up, pacing the living room in disbelief. "So you used me?" she shouted. "You used me like a womb for hire?" "I took care of you," David replied coldly. "I built the house, I gave you comfort, and you got the children you wanted." "They are my children," she screamed. "I carried them for 9 months. I nearly died giving birth to Chidi." "They're mine too," David said, "and they belong with their legal parents." The woman, Marissa, added, "We're already processing their Canadian citizenship. They're doing well here. Amanda calls me mommy now." That broke her. Chidima collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "You took my babies," she wailed. "You stole everything from me." "You need to calm down," David said. "Don't tell me to calm down." "I'm not trying to be cruel," he continued, "but we've made our decision. You need to move on with your life." "After 8 years, you just erase me like that?" He sighed. "I'm sorry you're hurt, but it was never supposed to last." There was a silence so heavy it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then the line went dead. Chidima sat there, phone still pressed to her ear, as the baby inside her kicked violently. Her hands fell to her belly. She cried until her voice gave out. She cried until the sky turned dark and thunder rumbled outside. Everything she had believed, her love, her marriage, her family, was gone, torn from her by the man she had trusted with her life. She looked around the living room, the toys, the photos on the wall, the framed wedding picture that was now a cruel lie. She reached for it and smashed it on the ground. Glass scattered like her heart. She lay on the cold floor, clutching her stomach, and whispered, "Why me, God? What did I do to deserve this?" The silence offered no answer. Chidema didn't know how long she lay on the cold tiled floor. Her head pounded and her eyes burned, but she couldn't move. The living room around her felt like a hollow shell. The sofa, the family photos, the toys, everything mocked her. The phone call from David echoed endlessly in her mind. He had taken the children, he had deceived her, and worst of all, he had never loved her. By morning, the pain in her chest hadn't eased. She hadn't slept. She hadn't even eaten. The pregnancy had drained her, but now despair did the rest. A loud knock at the gate jolted her. She sat up slowly. Another knock followed, firmer this time. Dragging her heavy legs, she staggered to the door and peered through the peephole. A man in a dark suit stood outside the gate, flanked by another, younger man holding a brown envelope. "Who are you?" Chidema asked weakly, opening the gate partway. "Good morning, Ma. I'm Barrister Obiora," the older man said politely. "Mr. David Okonkwo sent us. We're here on his instruction." Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" she asked, arms folded over her chest. "We've come to deliver a legal document. A compensation offer, actually," he said, pulling out the envelope. "I don't want anything from him," she snapped, stepping back. "Tell him to send my children instead." The lawyer gave her a sympathetic look. "Please, Ma, just read it. He said you might refuse to speak with him, so he asked us to explain." Against her better judgment, she let them inside. They sat quietly in the living room as Chidema opened the envelope. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the crisp white paper. It was a property transfer deed. The house was now legally hers. There was also a cashier's check attached for $10 million. She blinked in disbelief. "What is this supposed to mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. The younger man replied, "Mr. David instructed that the house be left in your name. He also included this financial package to help you start over." "Start over?" she repeated, laughing bitterly. "After stealing my children? After using me like an incubator?" "I understand this is painful," Barrister Obiora said gently, "but David believes this is the best way forward. He doesn't want you to suffer." "Oh, how thoughtful of him," she spat. She stood abruptly and walked to the framed picture of her with the twins, taken just days after their birth. The frame had cracked when she threw it last night. Carefully, she picked it up and stared at their tiny faces. "You think 10 million can fix what he broke?" she whispered. "You think a house can fill the hole in my chest?" Neither man responded. Then she turned sharply to them. "Tell David I don't want his money. I want my children back." The lawyer rose slowly. "I'll pass on your message, but please think about it. If nothing else, secure the house. It's in your name now. No one can take it from you." They left quietly, leaving Chidema alone once more. For the rest of the day, she wandered the house like a ghost, staring at the check and deed. The papers felt like an insult, blood money for her pain. By evening, the silence of the house crushed her. No pitter-patter of little feet. No Amanda singing from the hallway. No Chidi tugging her wrapper. Nothing. Just her and her unborn child. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at herself. Her belly was huge now. This child was coming soon, and she would raise it alone. Again. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Her heart jumped. She rushed to the door, hoping, praying that maybe, just maybe, it was David or her babies. But it wasn't. It was her neighbor, Mama Ronke. I heard everything, the woman said, stepping inside and holding Chidima. You don't have to go through this alone. Chidima broke down again, this time in someone's arms. That night, she locked the check in her drawer, not because she forgave David, but because the reality was simple. She needed to survive. She needed to prepare for the child inside her. And maybe she needed to plan for something else, something greater. She picked up her phone, not to call David, but to call her brother. I need help, she said. Anything, he replied instantly. What's wrong? Her voice was steady for the first time in days. I want to fight.